Three, two, and we are back. It's time for another episode of Stand Up Explained. I am Brandt Tobler,
What's up? I'm Andrew Slater.
and we are here to answer your question on how do open mics work?
How do they work?
How do they
do
work?
they work? Do
Do
open
they-
mics work? Is a good question.
We're going to go over that for all of you that are thinking about doing stand up. I do think they were probably very intimidating. I know for me, I was very intimidated. I'll say this: I remember the first couple of times I went to open mics. It was very clicky. I didn't really understand everything about stand up, and I was scared. So hopefully, we'll help you realize that there's nothing to be scared of, and they are never going to get better.
That's a good point you brought up. That's a good point you brought up right away about the clicky, because I think that's something I didn't understand when I started. I kind of thought, I'm trying to remember, it was so long, but when I first showed up, I didn't realize like comics were gonna like hang out afterward or before, or hang out at the bar, and they all knew each other and did this all the time. I kind of, in my mind, it was like people would just travel from town to town and do this show and leave. I didn't think of them as being like, because I started in Seattle, like this whole group of Seattle comics that I'd have to break into. And that's, so I don't know if that's something that's common knowledge or not, but like basically in every city, there's like a scene, and there's the people who are just starting out and people who've been there for a long time. And when you start an open mic and when you go to an open mic, you're going to have to break into this scene somehow if you want to hang around it, because it's very difficult to keep wanting to do comedy and going back over and over and over again and not having any socialization with other comics, because that other meeting those other comics like who you are just starting out is what kind of keeps you going sometimes.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. First of all, before you go, I would go to open mics. Before you think about getting on stage, I would go to open mics in whatever city or town you live in, and then get a feel for which one you like the best, feel the most, comfortable, confident at. And then maybe, watch a show or two. And then, for me, what I would say is if you see somebody that you enjoy, I would tell them. I think there's nothing better than a compliment.
Right.
If I was to do it all over again, I would go to open mic. I would find like the two guys that I think were the best. And I would say to them, hey, I really like what you did. I think you were awesome. I'm going up for the first time in a week or two. And, if you have you can ask them a question. Even just as simple of, hey, I really thought you were good. If you say that to me, you're my friend for life, pretty much. Or at least you become my friend, and then you can mess it up, but you're in.
Well, and then there's like strategy. It's not just being nice too, because it's like what you're trying to do is find people you're like, oh, that's good, I want to be like that, or this person is funny in the way that I kind of think that I'm funny, and I think that our sense of humors would like vibe together, because then this could be somebody I could write with later, or like you're trying to find like-minded people who you can, because like I said, you need, it's stand-up's very lonely, and it's its own, you're very individualized, but you kind of need a group. You need people to pull you along sometimes to keep you in it and feel connected. Otherwise it can be too much, and you can just kind of like, because I don't know if you remember, I remember when I first started, it was kind of this thing where I would go to the open mic, this place called Giggles, and I would just go in, sign up on a list. I would sit in the bar and just stare at my notebook, pretend I was writing the whole time. I was too scared to talk to any of the older comics or people who've been doing it longer. Do my set, watch a little bit till it was over, go pretend to look at my notebook some more, and then I'd leave. And then it was hard to convince myself to keep going back, because I was like, it was very nerve-wracking, and I just was like, I guess I should go, and it was when, after a while, people started talking to me, and I started talking to other comics who I thought were funny, got pulled into the group, and then it became a thing where it's almost mattered more to me if I did good with the comics than it mattered what I did on stage,
Yeah.
And it was at that point when I felt like connected to the comics that were at the open mic every night, that I was like, you couldn't keep me away. I was I want to go every night. I was like addicted to it.
I would say it gets I would compare it a lot to high school. Like when you are going to open mic that first time or the first couple times, you, like you said, you're going to click with the people in your grade like more that have the same style. But in stand up, you kind of come in as a group of people. Like for me, when I started stand up, those of us that started in those same 2 3 month area are always kind of been a group that's even stuck together, even though I think some of their stuff sucks, or I think some of, like
Right.
we were just in ninth grade together and the guys we looked up to were seniors, and it was just like high school all over. We didn't get to hang out with them until we proved that we were like cool or good, but it was so much better than just being at school by yourself. So I would say that if you're going to an open mic, and let's say you're up in 2 or 3 weeks, or you're planning on going up, however it is, and you see somebody go up for their first time, because I always announce someone's first time. That's a big deal. Nothing's better than if someone comes off their first time. I would go, and you're thinking about doing it, or you just start doing it. I would start to build that relationship, because you guys are going to kind of be on that same path.
For sure. Yeah. But I mean, let's talk about like literally how it works, right?
Yeah.
Like, cause some people maybe, so how open mic works is you show up and you're going to put your name in somehow. And there's going to be a lot of different ways they're going to decide where you're going to go up on the list, in what order, and if you even go up that night at all, right? Some clubs might make you come 50 times before you even get on stage once, and they're keeping track. They're paying attention if you're coming a lot or you're not. And I think clubs have to do that sometimes because it's just a gatekeeping thing. There's just too many comedians and there's too many people who want to do this, and they need some way to tell people no. And it's just we're going to weed people out who aren't willing to come back over and over and over again. But at some point you're going to get on the list, and they'll just decide where you are on the list. It's not like, hey, I showed up at 4:30, and the show's at 8 and I was first in line, I should get to go up first. It's like that's going to have nothing to do with their calculation at all. There's a million things that are going to go into where you go on the list and how you even get on the list.
Well, yeah, that's a good point, what you just said. And there's different kinds of lists. So like we started at bar shows, and what you just said is exactly how Comedy Works runs it here. Comedy Works, that's a legendary stage. They're just not going to let some asshole up there. You have to call in for 3 to 4 months to just get the chance to go up once, which I think is a great
well, see, that's
system.
Even great that they let you call in. A lot of clubs would make you come, physically write your name down on something, wait, see that you're not on the list, and then go home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So the clubs,
there's a club here in Portland, Oregon, Helium's a great club, and their open mic's very popular on Tuesdays. They get a great crowd, and they have their regulars. So they have comics that have been passed at the club can kind of go up every Tuesday as much as they want. And then they'll make comics, though, if you're not passed, you're not a regular, they'll make you sign up for the list, and if you don't get on, you're free to watch the show. But there's comics who go week after week after week, and maybe they get on once and they do good, and then they think, oh, now I'm passed. Like, no, now you got to keep coming back week after week. It's like it's a long process at these really high-end clubs.
Yeah, at the clubs, it's going to be more of a process, but that should be the goal. And we've talked about it on other episodes where you need to just get up as much as you can. So I tell people when they're starting out, start the process of trying to get on the comedy club stage. But in the meantime, you could probably do these bar open mics, which is where we started. So for instance, here, and I'm sure it's similar in Portland, we have two kind of different styles. One place is where you put your name in a bucket. They just random draw. And then, but then most open mics, you sign up on a list, and then you go up whenever the host decides, which is something we want to address right now. Is it doesn't really matter when you sign up, because you're going to go up. And the best lesson we could give you is this shit is not fair. If you want it to be fair, go be a magician. Or so there is no fair.
Right.
Don't say, if you want to turn off a group of comedians.
Wait, why is it more fair if you're a magician? I don't understand.
I don't know, but anything but this. Go to college or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how magic works, but it seems more fair.
All's fair in magic.
But it'll never be fair. And you don't want it to be fair, because over time, when you put in, you pay your dues, you deserve to go up, So like you were saying, most of them you'll go sign up for, and then they'll go down the list. Some of them go down the list the way people signed up, but I think that's a bad open mic, honestly, because if, let's say, Andrew shows up and he's very good, we want to give the best show always. So that's the one complaint I get. I don't know if you agree with this. Open micers like, well, I signed up and then these other comics showed up and they just went up there and goofed around and I didn't get to do my time, is the biggest complaint we have here.
Well, there's a strategy to every show, and whoever's running the open mic is probably also, it's not just about giving you stage time, right? It's about them trying to produce a good show that allows the venue to keep letting them do it there. So if it's a bar or a coffee shop or whatever, they don't want just a nightmare of a show. So by controlling who goes up when, they can it's like a batting order in baseball. They can go, oh, this is a good leadoff hitter. This is a good person in the middle. This is a good person at the end, whatever. So yeah, you got to take your ego out of it a little bit and just realize, they're trying to produce a show, and they're going to have their friends too. And that's part of like getting into a social group because you want friends to benefit you. But like, it's like Brandt said, it's never going to be fair. And friendships are going to come into play, and you're going to go, well, I'm funnier than that person. I didn't get on the list. And that's just because they're friends. Yeah, that's part of it. Go find another stage. I mean, there's going to be, hopefully you're in a city big enough where there's just going to be tons of places to go do this. So just find the one you can get on stage.
Yeah. Thinking back of when I ran open mics, to me, if you were new, most of the times the open mic, if you run the open mic, you might get maybe $50, or a lot of times you have you get a percentage of the drink sold. So if you're a new comic and let's say you got there first and you signed up before everybody else and you brought 12 people, you would still go on last because you brought the most crowd that I need to stay there the whole time and sell more drinks,
right,
and put on a show. So people be like, well, I was here so early, why do I go up last? And then you never want to tell them the truth, but that's the truth, because the better the bar sales are, the more likely we can continue to do the show. And all my friends that are showing up, they want to perform for your 12 people. If I put you up first, you and your 12 people leave and we don't sell any drinks and we don't really have a crowd for the rest of the show. So that's the one that got me in the most trouble. And then not in trouble, but that was the one that people complained. And then another thing is like, you could, if me and you both have an open mic and you show up whenever you want at my mic and I put you on with the understanding I can do that at yours, that's what they call show trading. And that's very popular and just part of the thing, because I'm not getting paid or getting paid very little to run this mic. So one of the benefits I have is I can go to the other mics around town and get up whenever I want. And people are going to whine about that, but it's just the worst thing you could do is whine. You need to just take your lumps, or you can start your own open mic and then you can show trade with me, or, there's ways around it, but whining about order at an open mic is something that I'm immediately like, oh, this dude sucks.
It's so true what you're saying. Like there's, you got to remember everyone's motivations. Your motivation is to get on stage and work out your jokes and get better at comedy, but their motivation is not that. Whoever is running the show, they're trying to put. So like when I was at the club where I started at Giggles, this is where I went to all my early open mics, and they would do it Thursdays and Sundays. And there's a Thursday, this guy came and he came out of nowhere. Sometimes that would just happen. Like someone would come, no one's ever heard of this comic, and he brings like 60 friends to he's a guy who's popular in the office. So he comes one time and he brings all his people, and we're psyched. The comics were like, hey man, this is like a big Friday night. All of a sudden we're going to do our best stuff and all this, try and record it and all this stuff. So I think I went on before this guy. Then this guy goes up and he's going long, and he didn't know about the light, we haven't talked about, but they give you the light when to wrap it up, and flashlight in the back. He doesn't know about that. He doesn't know any of the rules. He's just going long. And the owner, Terry, he doesn't care. He's like, this guy can do whatever he wants. He can go in the kitchen and make himself a steak. I don't care. He brought 60 people on a Thursday night. I'm getting rich off of this guy, So, but then Mike, our mutual friend, Mike Cummings, who I started with way back then, Mike Cummings was pissed because he was going after this guy, and he's running the light. And Mike's getting pissed. He's getting upset because he's going long and long, and he's worried. He doesn't like having to wait. He's used to kind of running the place. So Mike's flashing him in the back, all this stuff. Finally, Mike gets so mad Mike goes back in the stereo. He just cuts his mic out, lets him know like you're done. He turns his mic off. So the guy figures it out. Eventually, gets off stage. And Mike goes up and does his dumb act. But then, of course, all his friends, half of them get up, go to the bathroom. They don't care anymore. And Mike's all upset. But Mike gets upset. Terry just rips in him. He's like, what are you doing? He's so mad at Mike because this guy's mad at him and all his friends are leaving. He's like, what is wrong with you? But see, like their motivations weren't lining up. Like to Mike, he's like, I'm just trying to get on stage and do better. And I want to get in front of these 60 people. But to Terry, he's like, I'm trying to make money. I'm running a business here. So you got to just kind of think about where everybody's motivations are, but then exploit that still to get what you need,
Yeah. That's a good point. Like it's a selfish business we're in, but the more you think about everyone else around you, the more you won't whine about fare. Because if you really think about it, you go, oh yeah, this is a bar running a business. The longer my friends stay in here drinking, because that first time, that's a jackpot for an open mic. For me, when I was a host, I'm like, oh, this is great. Because these people, they're waiting. They're not going to leave early to not see their friend that they're going up for the first time.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's stuff like, it's just stuff that there's no rules. Whoever runs it's going to run it however they want. You're kind of just a victim to the I don't know.
The only thing you can control is which ones you choose to go to, which ones you want to spend your time going to. So if the open mic is really corrupt and you feel like there's never any rhyme or reason as to how you can get on and when you get on and you're not making, then just don't go to that. That's the only thing you can control is like, I'm not going to spend my time trying to get in that one. There's probably other ones you can,
or become corrupt.
Yeah. Or become corrupt yourself.
Trust me.
And cheat it.
It'll never hurt you if you're at the bar and the host is coming up to the bar and you buy him a drink or something like that. There's investments like that's something that I mastered early. It was like, oh, you need something? I'm going to the bar. Like, if somebody's running the show, it's like it's a $4 investment that'll get you home an hour earlier. You could decide how much that $4 means to you, but it's a game. You need to learn how to play the game in this business across the board. So much of this business is networking, which we'll talk about on another episode. But I remember when I started out, there was guys who were like, I'm not going to kiss anybody's ass. I'm going to do it my way. And those guys are still playing the same bars. And again, there's calculated kissing ass and there's not. If someone's good, there's no hurt in just telling someone they're good.
You're not lying. Yeah. Like, I think that the open mics that you choose to go to, well, what I was going to say is that like the other thing about open mics is that, like you were saying, there's a lottery, there's a sign up, there's you don't want to like have to like pay to do the open mic, obviously. But no matter what it is, your goal is to get on stage as long as you can, as often as you can. That should be it. So you just have to, like you're saying, you just have to work whatever system it is to get that out of it. And you want to, everything you do should be with that in mind. But you can't sabotage yourself by getting pissed off about the rules or the fairness of it, or who else is getting on that you're not getting on. It's like you got to keep the main goal in mind, which is get on stage and work your stuff out and get on as much as you can.
By any means necessary. Without killing somebody. But if some people are better at networking, some aren't. Like if I worked somewhere or something, I'd be like, I remember guys, there's a guy, he worked at a pizza place and it would close at about the time the open mic was starting. So that pizza that usually just go in the trash or whatever, he'd bring that pizza to the open mic, and the host, he'd put it on the table where the host was taking signups. The host got his first crack. That guy never had a problem getting on. It's just being creative. Like you don't, instead of pouting, I would just say, you're not going to, if you start out the open mic, you're not going to like the rules because there is no rules. And if they are not tailored to make your life any better. So just get better and play the game a little, and then eventually start your own open mic. And then I definitely, when I had my open mic, then I was like, oh God, I see why all this works the way it did. Everything I hated that happened to me, now is exactly what I'm doing because that's just how it works.
Well, and so I think the other thing to talk about the differences between, because we talked about all the different ways they can make a lineup and the different ways you can get on. But there's also there's two types of open mics as far as what to expect from an audience, right?
Mhm.
There's going to be open mics where your audience is mostly an actual audience where there's people there who came to see comedy. Sometimes they're surprised that there's comedy there if it's a bar or a coffee shop or whatever, but at least they're not aspiring comedians themselves. Then there's going to be open mics you do where most of the audience is just people waiting for their own chance to go on stage, and they're only watching because it's like polite, because they want someone to watch them when you know what I mean, when they're
Yeah.
on stage. So, and that's like that's just something you got to get used to. And like, they talk about the dangers of like playing to the back of the room, or essentially like trying to make comics laugh versus trying to make an audience laugh. I wouldn't really worry about that too much. I think just try to make people laugh and work on your act. I think people put too much thought into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Just doing it is the key because you know what's going to happen at those shitty open mics? It's going to be that's the time the mic stand's going to break, or that's the time someone's going to drop a glass, or that's the time the mic's going to come unplugged in the middle of your joke. And it's just repetition because I remember so much random weird shit will happen at that open mics that'll eventually happen again, maybe at an important time. And even in those moments of like all that weird shit I went through in the beginning has, even when I was in the best comedy clubs in the world, sometimes happened. But I had that rep of like, oh, this is what I did last time this weird thing
Right.
happened. And then on the ride home, instead of bombing or something, you go, that was weird. This happened. The lights went out, the sound went out, the waitress fell down. I handled it like this. That was good. Or man, I will handle it like this next time because it'll be a next time. So
Well, and it's like those open mics too. It's like training with resistant bands. I think of like, you're on deck to go hit and you put like a donut on your bat. You want to make your bat heavier. Because then if you get in front of a hot crowd on a Friday night, it's going to feel so easy.
yeah,
If you can do good at those open mics that are tough then those club shows are going to be nothing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're
Well,
gonna
here's
get
a
laughs you didn't even know were there. You have these bits sometimes, and you're like, this gets a laugh, this gets a laugh, and then there's a big punchline at the end, and then you do them at crappy open mics so much you forget that when you were writing it that there were these funny ideas all along because you're only getting the laugh at the thing at the very
yeah,
end because it's like the bare minimum you can get. So yeah, I mean that's another reason to do as many open mics as you can because it's gonna make those club shows like nothing,
yeah.
just like
Yeah,
fun.
what you always say, just make that another layer that they can't get through. You've
Right.
gone through the fire, and then you will be so pleasantly surprised. You'll be like, oh my gosh. Like you said, you'll be like, they're laughing at stuff no one's ever laughed at. It's like, yeah, because they're a paying audience that are here to
Right.
see. They're not looking at
They're
their
not
phones.
waiting for their turn to go on stage.
Yeah,
It's
that
amazing.
that facial movement actually worked because people weren't staring at their phones. Like
Right.
everything put into the joke. But yeah, I mean, it's intimidating, but you just got to get through it. And like I said, I can say this from experience because I chickened out forever, and I wish, you know, I think if I would have just, I think we both did the same thing where you just kind of sit in the back and don't talk to anybody. And I think if I could do it again, I would at least, I would be less worried about giving a compliment because I mean we love that shit.
For
If you
sure.
see
Yeah.
somebody that does
Yeah.
good, just that's how you start building a relationship. You don't have to tell everyone they did good, but if you go to an open mic, inevitably someone's going to be the best. If I was starting out in comedy, I would go to that person and say, "Hey man, I really liked your set." Because if you said that to me at an open mic, I'd say thanks. I'd say, "Are you a comic or what?" And then we a bond has started to form, and you're being genuine. And then again, if somebody went up for the first or second time and you're scheduled to go up for the first or second time, I'd also go over and say something to them. Go, hey, that was awesome for your first time, or you did great for your first time. Because everyone, I would say that to anybody on their first time, and then
Right.
go, hey, I'm going up on my first time soon too.
And you never know who's gonna become what and do what, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's been open micers when I started, I could have sworn we're like, this person is insane, or you know what I mean? Like they're never gonna get it, and they turn out to be big and successful, or not even as a comic, but then they just go into like booking shows, and then they're all of
Yeah.
a sudden they own comedy clubs or something. So it's like, just be, don't bullshit, but also, like you said, if you can say something, if you see something that you
Yeah.
like, tell them, or
I
I also think like don't just, because I think the temptation for people, if you're going to go to an open mic and you're just, because you just want to feel it out, the temptation is just to watch the people who suck and go, oh, I'm gonna be so much better than them. I don't have to
yeah.
worry about this, right? But just watch the people who are really good too. Don't let it intimidate you into not doing it, but just go, oh wow, there's like, because I think what happens is sometimes you start out and you just compare yourself to the people who stink or are crazy, and then you get a little arrogant. You think, oh, I got this, or I'm funnier than them, or I'm going to figure this out. But then what you have to remember is there's people like doing this for 15, 20 years who've learned thousands and thousands and thousands of lessons, and it doesn't hurt to watch them as much as you can, because you're going to just pick up stuff, not like stealing jokes, but I mean like pick up like the way they carry themselves and attitude, or just like the way they approach it, the way
Yeah.
they prepare. And so don't just watch people who who suck, I guess, is my
And I'll
advice
tell you
on open
this,
mics.
and it's probably just a selfish thing too, but if I go to the open mic and I'm one of the best people, and then you're in the back fucking around when I'm up there, and I feel like you should be watching me, I don't forget that,
Right.
like I
Right.
saw Neil Brennan do that one time at the West Side Comedy Club in LA. He was performing, and there's like people fucking around. I don't know why they were even in there. And he just said on stage, he goes, don't forget, I still cast a lot in this town. And every audience member was like, I better fucking act right. So it's like, especially if the best comedians are on, because you're eventually going to get to work with them. For me, like when I get a headline here at Comedy Works, you get passed to the list to get a chance to work there, but it's so hard to get on that list. So every single time I give a guest spot to somebody who's not on the list, who doesn't really get to perform at Comedy Works, as like a reward for all the shitty shows that they do, just as like a carrot, like, hey, keep going because this is out there. And that comes from going to Comedy Works, seeing people working hard, people being respectful when I'm on stage. Just like, you just never, this business is so all about who you know. So I
Right.
would, at these open mics, just like, I'd watch the best people and pay attention, and like I said, the open mic gets so much easier when you're not there by yourself. So I would immediately start trying to make if you come in that second time and you can walk over to either, maybe not, the best person's a little weird. That's intimidating. I remember the guy for me was Shuley, who's on the Howard Stern show now. He was the best, and he was always my favorite. I was too scared to tell him I was my favorite, and I'd always want to walk over. Now, in hindsight, if I would have went over and said, hey, you're great, maybe I would have walked over to like the more established comic table. But instead, when I started, there was like the established comics were all hanging in a clique, and then 4 or 5 of us were just sitting around the room in different spots looking at our notebook, when it would have been so much cooler just to sit with one of those other people and
Right.
just talk to them. So I think, again,
And
you're going to,
and it's not a risk-free proposition either. I mean, you could walk. I think both of us have seen it go south a few times, where someone, there's a conversation happening, and someone thinks that they're like just going to walk up and join, and then they get ripped on a little bit. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can be like, oh, I wasn't supposed to be in this conversation. So I
yeah,
think what you're talking about is more like, just if you have a specific thing you want to say or like bring up, or you want to be social, introduce yourself, no one's going to follow you for that. But like, yeah, just understand, if there's like a big circle of comedians talking, and it's your first time, and you walk over and just plant yourself in that conversation, it might go bad for you
yeah.
a
We
little
wouldn't
bit. So there's a
recommend doing
little
that.
risk to it too. But
I mean, you'd have some balls, but yeah, what I'm saying more is like, see somebody who's probably starting out, and then try to bond with them and say, hey, you did a great job for your first time. I'm going up next week. How'd it feel? Were and then,
yeah,
you
that for
have a
sure.
connection. And then when you walk in next week and they're sitting there with their notebook, walk over and you can just call back, like a great joke callback. You can call back and go, hey, I remember what you said last week. I'm going to try to do that. Or I think I'm as nervous as you were last week, or I'm
Yeah.
scared. I hope I do as good as you did last week. And then you were starting to bond, because I agree with
Because
you that walking in and not knowing anybody is what made me chicken out for a long time. And I just never, like you said, if you don't get comfortable at the open mic, you'll talk yourself out of going. But when you get comfortable, they can't fucking keep you out. You'd miss
right.
your mother's birthday. When your mother's birthday falls on open mic night, you're like, God damn it, I got to be there.
That's what
So
I was. It's true. Like when I first started, I was like coming up with excuses why I shouldn't go. I was like, oh, I shouldn't go because I got to get back up to school, or I shouldn't go because I'm not prepared this week, whatever. But then once it flips, all the excuses are why you should go. You know what I mean? Like why you
yeah,
have to go. And you're like, oh no, I need to work on this bit. I can't go to whatever your thing is or whatever this thing is or whatever. So it does flip. It flips and it flips fast.
yeah. And it's awesome. And it's so worth it. You just have to get through it. But just realize I mean, that's why comics are so cool. That's why you'll hear us on this podcast talk about we hung out with the biggest comics in the world and they couldn't be cooler. It's just because they've been wherever you are at that point. So to me, I think it's very important to find an open mic that your favorite one to kind of call a home. And the sooner you can get comfortable there, it'll make you, because we'll say it on probably every episode, the key to comedy is just getting up and writing as much as you can. So what Andrew just talked about, you got to flip that switch where you're not making excuses not to go to open mic, where it would take a fucking disaster to keep you out of the open mics. That's when you're going to start to see progress and get better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you said it. I don't know. And then I'm just trying to think of, is there anything else with open mics? The other great thing about open mics is just going to be crazy things that happen.
Yeah.
You're going to see really talented people. You're going to see untalented, boring people. You're going to see people from all different walks of life. You're going to see old people trying it for the first time. You're going to see young people. You see kids. I've seen 12-year-olds come in and do it with their dad coaching them. I've seen homeless people come in, and yell. I remember, Chili from Philly. That guy was yell at the comedy club owner because he thought he gets 15 minutes when everyone gets 5. I mean, you see crazy stuff. That's the other thing. It's a lot of fun.
It's some of the best memories I have is when I started in Vegas, there was only one comedy club and it was in this industrial part, just a shitty neighborhood. And you would come down the street. And as I would drive to it every Sunday night at 9:00, well, I could see the parking lot, and sometimes there'd be 50 cars, sometimes there'd be 5. But those nights when there was 50, I don't know if I've ever felt, and that's when it's just like, oh, it's here we go, and
Right.
and it's just it's intimidating at first, but you just got to just get in there, sign up, and if I had any advice, would be, first of all, just do it, but then try to get out of your shell. Don't just be in your phone. Try to just talk to 1 or 2 people, because if they keep coming back and you keep coming back, you'll just feel
And that's
better.
what I was gonna say too. Is like you think like in school, like when you made the analogy like 9th grade, 10th grade, that a lot of that's based on age, because you're all the same age, and you think in comedy, all your peers are gonna be the same age, but it's not how old they are. It's how many years they've been doing comedy. So all your
Yeah.
friends end up being people who've been doing comedy about the same number of years as you. That's who you relate to. And those guys, people could be, 20 years older than you, 20 years younger. It doesn't matter. It's you relate to them because they're at that same kind of step. So you're right. Talk to people who are just like you, who are just starting.
Yeah. And for the basics, I don't know. I mean, we probably should have started this up front, but you're probably going to get 3 to 5 minutes. What Andrew talked about a little bit, they're going to give you a light or some kind of signal from the back of the room, which means to wrap it up. If you're doing a 3 or 5 minute show, it's probably like a 30-second, 1 minute light. You don't have to really worry about an intro or any of that. They're just going to say your name or whatever. You really just have to worry about your jokes. I would just ask how much time you get, and then be prepared to go up at any time, because what we've talked about before, there's no rhyme or reason to when they're going to put you up. So if I was newly going to open mic, I'd get there, sign up, I'd have a drink. Even if you don't drink, get a soda or something, say, show that you're supporting the show, spend just a little money. You don't have to go off the deep end. And then And then when you get your chance, go up there, do your time. When you get the light, wrap it up, and
And
they'll keep putting you up if you just follow the simple. It's not that hard if you just kind of do what you're supposed to.
right. Well, and another thing, because I know like our friend Brian started, he thought he had to have a different set every time. So I think there's a balance, right? You definitely, I think most people probably know now, like, oh no, comics do like the same bit and they kind of work it, hash it out and figure out to make it the funniest, and then it's like finished, right? But for your set, I would say, especially when you're starting out, you want to do that. You want to craft your jokes and do the ones that work because you want to do well. But then I would just say the thing that gets old fast, and you never want to just do the same set every single time. Try to do at least, even if it's one tiny thing, one new joke, one different word in the joke, try to do something different every time so that people don't know you as, oh, that's the guy who does the same. Oh, I've seen this, and then they tune out. They're not going to
Yeah.
watch.
Or
They're
they
not
get
going to
up and
care.
leave. Or if I'm the
Right?
host,
They
I'm
can
not putting
ignore
you
you.
up.
But if
Yeah.
you do a little something different every time, I'm not saying you have to bring a different 5 minutes every time, but you bring it, just even if it's one new joke or one new tag or something, that's going to keep people like, oh, they're developing. You know what I mean? Oh, this
Yeah.
person is growing a little bit every time.
Yeah. Make it so the crowd wants to watch you, because like it's going to be a lot
Well,
of
the
same
crowd,
people.
and then like the club owner or or
Yeah.
the comics who are running the thing, I think them. But yeah, the crowd consider how well you're going to do. So you don't want to like do all brand new stuff every time because you don't want to bomb, but you
Well,
also want people to be interested who are booking the thing.
I mean, and this is something I wish I would have done better at, but as we were talking about, there's either big nights or bad nights. Okay, when you come down that hill or you drive there or get there and it's packed and it's somebody like you said that brought 60 new people, then bang out the hits and try to just crush if you want to.
Right.
But on the nights when there's not anybody there, I really wish, still to this time, I wish I took more chances on these nights that don't really matter. I mean, they matter for your growth, but sometimes I'm like, Brandt, why did you? I didn't need to do half that. I know that shit works. It's the ego comes out of like, oh, I need to get this laugh when I should be working on stuff that'll
Well, and
club.
working on stuff, that's what's going to keep you. Again, this could be a whole another episode, but working on stuff is what's going to keep you interested.
Yeah,
They're going to see you bored up there if you're doing the same thing every time. So I would say just bring in like one new thing every time is definitely
that's a great goal. One new thing, and it could be even a different facial expression. It could be a little more movement on
right.
stage. You should challenge yourself at these open mics to, because you're going to be there and you're going to see it. You're going to, like I said, it's going to be a lot like school. You're going to have your kind of class. People are going to take off and people are going to stay there. You want to be one of the ones that take off because everybody's noticing who, I notice like what I said when I give people guest spots, it's not the same. It's not the people doing the same 5 minutes. I've given guest spots to people that I just like that they took chances. And I told them, I go, hey man, I love that you just went for it right there. And sometimes it doesn't go good, but you just went for it, which is so much more exciting for me as a peer, audience member, booker, anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything else
Yeah. So I don't
about
know.
open mics?
I mean, the most basic thing, if you're watching this and you're thinking about doing an open mic, go do it. We'll talk
Right.
about it every episode. It's repetition.
Oh,
There's
that's a great. Yeah. 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 That's what I wanted to say too, is that do, there's no waiting till you're ready, like, because whatever these jokes are that you're if you've never done stand up before, whatever this is that you're crafting, you're not going to get it so good that it's going to be just, it's more about ripping this thing off. You just got to get started, and you're not
yeah.
really getting started by writing. You're only getting started that first time on stage.
Yeah. People always ask me,
Really
when should I
gonna
start? I say yesterday.
right.
Just go. If you have like a dream mic or something and it's a week away, okay, but don't, if you're in, like, let's say Portland or you're in Denver and you're 8 weeks out at that Comedy Works or the Helium show, start doing open mics now. Put
Right.
that as the cherry on top, and when you get on that stage, when everybody's there, then crush that. Like that's when you. But the biggest mistake I made was I chickened out for 2 years, and 2 years of reps. Who knows where I'd be at right now? but I can never get that time back. If I could do any of it over, I wouldn't have been such a chicken, and I would have just went and did it. And I tell people that all the time, just go do it tomorrow. Because getting that first part of it's just getting that first one over.
Yeah, no, you gotta tear it off. It's like demolition. You gotta break it all down and build it back up. And it's you're not, by just writing, you're not starting the process. I think people think, oh no, look how much I've written. I'm so far ahead of the game. It's like, if you have not actually gone on stage, that doesn't count. No.
Yeah.
You have a notebook with words in it, but it's not jokes until you go on stage and know what's what.
Exactly. So yeah, so if you're thinking about doing it, go sign up tomorrow. The sooner the better. And if you have any questions for us, you can find me at Brandt Tobler. You can find Andrew at Andrew Slater. If you have any questions, if we didn't cover something and you have a question about it, or if you go do it and you just want to reach out and tell us how it went, we will always talk comedy with you. And so that's it. I hope we answered your question on how open mics work. You're in for a journey. I hope if you've made it to the end, I hope we inspired you to go do it, and hopefully we'll perform with you at an open mic somewhere, because we still do them. I'd love to do one tonight if we could.
I know. I never thought I'd say that, but yeah, I would love to do an open mic right now. So
All right.
Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
And we'll see you
We'll
next
talk
time.
to you next week. See ya.